71.46 lakh crore rupees. You know what I'm talking about? I'll tell you. 71.46 lakh crore rupees worth of UPI transactions were clocked in 1 year alone in 2021. This was across 3,874 crore total volumes, that is. These are crazy numbers. We all know that UPI has been a big hit. How can it grow further? What's the next trigger for UPI? Remember, there are new rules also that are coming in where a player can't have more than 30% market share. I'm going to be discussing this and more with the NPCI COO Praveena Rai, who is joining us here on the channel. Ms. Rai, it's always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much. First up, Happy New Year. I don't know how you're going to replicate the success of 2021. Is it easy, or do you have a tough year ahead of you with big targets, far more ambitious?
Happy New Year to you and to everybody. So targets are always big, and the ambition has to be large. Having said that, I think the way to approach it is not to get overwhelmed by the large objectives, but to really look at continuing to solve problems and executing in the market along with our ecosystem. So I think these are the simple principles, simple rules. We stay true to this, and I'm sure we're just kicking off another good year.
UPI transactions in 2021 grew 130%. You know, the base is only getting bigger. Is this kind of growth possible?
So if you look at two parameters, right? One is the number of users in the country as against the number of users who are actually using UPI. There is more potential and more work to be done there. And if you look at everyone who's a UPI user, certainly in the last 2 to 3 years, someone who was an infrequent user of UPI has started using UPI a lot more frequently. But we've still not reached the point where UPI can be used for every single purpose. It can be used, but perhaps not everyone is using it for every single purpose of payment in their life for goods and services that they purchase or that they use. So there is headroom there. And as we look at initiatives to bring in more users, bring in more merchants and more use cases, I think that's really how this pie is going to grow. And if you look at the point of most important priority that we really closed last year with, it continues to be the most important priority for 2022, which is really to make a success of UPI Autopay. So this is, as you know, on the back of the RBI mandate on recurring payments. This went live, and it was there cooking for a year and a half and went live as of October 1st, 2021. And it's really changing the landscape of how autopay works. Certainly some early angst because there is a lot of go live. People are used to a certain kind of experience. Merchants have to go live in a certain format. But the end result is a very high degree of convenience to users, a mandate which is very easy to set up, and something that gets executed with a lot of control in the hands of the users. Right? So they get a 24-hour notification so that if there is something wrong in it, somebody can act very quickly. So it gives a lot of comfort to users, and we're really seeing very good uptake on that. I think we closed the year on a very good note, about 5 million mandates. And if you look at the cumulative number of mandates on UPI Autopay, the number there on live mandates is also looking very good. But I'm more excited about the entire, the full list of categories of the merchants who come on board with different kind of services. Certainly OTT players like Netflix, like Hotstar, streaming music like JioSaavn, Ghana, and many others who are live. This is actually one of the top categories here. The other top category would be recharge, right? So recharges is another big segment. postpaid. So I think, Jio's live on the postpaid segment, other players going live very soon. And certainly charity. So, players like Goonj and, other players, again, going live for people who want to set up donations to charity on a mandate basis. Bill payments, simple bill payments, all regular bills. So just bringing massive amount of convenience to our lives, but still giving a lot of comfort
Right.
and safety. So I think this is a big one, Nayantara.
Oh, yes, of course. We've seen autopay pick up. In fact, in the month of December, after the rules had kicked in, I think you guys, we saw UPI clocking more than 8 lakh crore rupees in 1 month alone when we look at the transactions. But Ms. Rai, once again, what's the next big trigger? And I also ask you this because the Reserve Bank of India is now talking about feature phones, digital payments with feature phones. It's also talking about offline payments.
I think, it's the right time to talk about the big start to the new year with RBI announcing offline payments. So it's something that I think India is really going to innovate for the world. While we are leading on digital payments, it's very important for us to solve this problem of ensuring that digital payments are operational and they work even when the data signal is not too good. So this could be right from a remote part of the country, perhaps not yet fully digital, or the one-off incident when our data doesn't work too well. It happens to all of us sometimes. It could be the basement of a mall where data is again not as good, and maybe physical cables have not yet been read. So many situations where this starts becoming very useful. But the more interesting piece is even where connectivity exists, it's great for queue busting, right? So if it's going to take about 4 to 5 seconds or 10 seconds for a regular digital transaction payment, I think this can be even faster in the way an offline payment can work. And shifting a little bit away from the UPI conversation, we're very excited that we have the RuPay NCMC program, which has been available on offline. We've been kind of waiting for this moment, and now that the formal mandate is available, we will really see this very active in the market. So RuPay cards, nearly all cards that are issued today, 70-80% of cards that are issued today are what is called NCMC cards, the National Common Mobility Card. Now this has the offline functionality inbuilt and available onto it. Some technology changes will have to be done at the bank's end as well as the ecosystem end. But we expect that to go to market fairly soon. And then users will actually be able to just use this tap and go for small value transactions, right? Micro value transactions less than 200 rupees, which will be a big convenience there. So really looking forward to this and very excited about what we can do with offline payments. I think India can really lead the innovation there.
When will you go live with this?
So technically, as I said, the cards that have been issued over the last year or so are all already enabled for these transactions. So there is some level of activity that needs to be done at the ecosystem end to start opening up this functionality. So I would expect that, in the next few days, 2 weeks, you'll slowly start seeing both merchants and ecosystem players open up to this.
These are the RuPay cards you're referring to, which were, these are the cards you're referring to, which is part of the Modi government stimulus package when we know they wanted people to go out and consume more during the pandemic, and government officials, those working with the government at the state and center were given this option. Is that what you're referring to?
No, I'm talking to every RuPay card in everybody's wallet. Today, there are 600 million RuPay cards out there in the market. So these are debit cards, prepaid cards, credit cards, just regular cards, Nayantara.
Okay. Now, Ms. Rai, if we can't have you here at the start of the year and not ask you this one question, because there are new rules that are kicking in, right, this year when it comes to capping of market share. When you look at the market share and the last data we have, for example, PhonePe has about a 45% stake. You've got, Google at number 2, which had about, I think, a 35% stake, and a Paytm, which was a distant third at about 12 to 15%. How is this going to work?
So I think the approach that we have very clearly taken is one of growing the market. The policy itself is a risk containment policy. The solution to this is to really grow the pie. So grow the market, and all the initiatives that we talk about grow the market. They bring more ecosystem players into the market. And as this, as the number of players grows, it will have a natural solution to the policy of risk containment. So we'll have to watch this closely, and we are watching this very closely, working with the ecosystem players. All the detailing on how the execution of the risk strategy works out is done in alignment, in consultation. So this will certainly be a big focus and take a priority in this year. We also have the other initiative on, setting up the subsidiary. Go ahead, please.
But Ms. Rai, if I could just interject over there, if you would permit me to interject over there, Ms. Rai, till the market doesn't increase, the pie doesn't increase, and you don't see players like, let's say, a PhonePe because of the pie not increasing, being able to bring down their market share, what is it that you all at NPCI are thinking that PhonePe should give up its consumers? How is it going to be monitored? Is there a penalty? How is this going to work exactly? And will there be any disruption for consumers?
No, we don't expect any disruption for consumers. And like I said, there is a good level of industry consultation that we have done and we will do to ensure that the execution of this is in the interest of UPI and in the interest of the ecosystem. So fingers crossed on this, Nayantara. I'm sure that with all the initiatives in play, there will be a solution and the pie will grow. And I wanted to address this, the other big initiative that will add to the flavor of what we're talking about is around the Go International. Right? So we've established the NPCI International, which is a subsidiary. And just like NPCI is a public good for India, public utility, we want to take this principle into being a public utility, a public good for the world at the international stage. And being able to create the transactions cross-border, enabling both the Indian ecosystem, the apps on UPI, the ecosystem players, the banks, and various participants, getting that enabled for international transactions and bringing in international partners, which is what our international team has been working very hard on. And a number of MOUs have been signed there. Some will go into execution very soon. Some already have. So really, we'll slowly start seeing the ability for people from India who are users of UPI to travel abroad and to be able to use UPI for their requirements there, as well as cross-border remittance transactions on UPI. So I think these two things are very exciting, and along with the actions and priorities in the domestic market, and then you look at this entire expansion of what we've done successfully domestically and taking it cross-border, it really opens up that opportunity.
Okay, that's interesting that once you start including all of that, maybe it'll become easier to roll out the 30% market share rules. And because the consultations are still on with industry, like you said, and NPCI has always been consultative, would the corollary of that be that maybe the rules are not live just yet?
The policy is active. The policy is active. The consultations will continue and give us the scope to take actions as we need to.
So in January, if someone has more than the market share, what are they supposed to do? It's not that far away. It's about 20 days away.
No, this is all part of a standard plan that is already in place, which is available with all the ecosystem players in terms of what action, who needs to take at what level, etc., etc. So very detailed plans are available for that.
Okay, so that means we now need to reach out to the players to figure out how that's going to work. I take it what you're saying.
The other interesting topic is really on how the IPOs have fared. There again, UPI as a mechanism around ASBA for IPOs for retail subscriptions. We spoke about it some time back. So during the year, we've really seen that uptake going very well. Some big IPOs expected in the first quarter of this year, 2022. So I think all readiness for that. But the numbers have been showing up very well. I think we're looking at more than a 60% share of the retail subscription base now. So that's another nice feather in the cap for UPI. And I think it does the job of, we spoke about
Correct.
Bringing in new user base, right? So again, these were users who were not very conversant or perhaps had not been onboarded on UPI, but were investors, were retail investors in the market. So as this became more prevalent and prominent, they've now got comfortable with UPI. In the early stage, we would see some failures. People would subscribe, but not necessarily go on the app and, provide their PIN and authenticate the transaction. But all of that is now settled in nicely. So users are more comfortable. And that journey, we realized, is a very, very important journey. So one of our big initiatives is also to continue to the drive on awareness, on UPI awareness, especially as more people join the fold. It's extremely important that they know how to use UPI safely, that they are aware of the conveniences, the options. And also, we launched, we have a UPI Chalega campaign. It's an ecosystem campaign that's actually conducted with all the ecosystem participants. And the second version of that campaign was concluded in 2021 with good results. And one of the actions in that campaign was the introduction of something called the UPI Safety Shield, which also communicates and drives the awareness how people use UPI safely, how the PIN is very important, and the parameters to be cognizant of as the convenience and ease of using UPI, is the benefit that people enjoy. So I think these are some of the things that will continue to be important priorities for 2022 also.
Oh, absolutely. And Ms. Rai, what about credit on UPI? There's so much that's being talked about credit right now. I'm not getting into the rage of buy now, pay later, this, that, and the other, but within the ecosystem, there seems to be some confusion. For example, you have the Bullet app of Jupiter, which is not able to do it, whereas some others are. And I don't mean to single out names when I'm saying it. I'm just giving it as an example because it happens. How can credit on UPI work, and how are the various apps, the founders that are watching you right now, the entrepreneurs who are watching you right now, how is it supposed to happen?
So UPI is permitted as a payment instrument on current account, savings account, and OD accounts, right? So the credit product on UPI is OD, and there are participants who are live on it. So this is the permissible UPI transactions. And these are well supported. We see good success. There is a lot more to be done, and we are excited about what's happening in the market. The digital credit paper from RBI is something very interesting. I think it opens up for discussion certain very interesting points, and also opens up an opportunity for a lot more structure and a framework that will give the participants in this ecosystem the ability to really grow their business in a manner that is safe for consumers and regulated, right? So that's really where this is all heading. But UPI per se is live, as I said, on the permitted accounts today.
Okay. Yeah, because some of us are wondering, for example, you have a post pay which is allowed and a bullet, for example, which is not being allowed. So that's their own internal stuff that they, I guess, need to figure out if they're doing savings account or current account.
Yeah, that's right. I'm sorry, I'm not so aware of the specific details here.
Fair point. Okay. What about voice? I know you had a hackathon. I know you figured out technology around hackathon and digital payments. I'm also asking you this because, when we enter 2022, there's so much that's being spoken about new APIs that are being built for voice, which will be voice enabled. How big can that be for UPI?
So I think the result of the hackathon was very positive, and we are quite excited about how that will get taken forward. So there is some work in progress. As you know, it was in a sort of a early stage after the hackathon, so a lot of groundwork needs to be done after that. So yeah, we should see something this year maybe.
Okay, so we all are going to then wait for the voice-enabled digital payments as well. Ms. Rai, before I let you go, you gave us one big headline, which is, of course, that whenever it is that we are safe to travel and we go on our holidays or, whatever happens, but remittances are anyway being allowed, is it going to have to be country-specific that you're going to have to take permission? Let's say if I'm going to a Dubai or a London or an America or a France or wherever it is we're going, how will it work?
Yeah, these will be enabled at partner level. So there could be partners who have the ability to support multiple countries. So then it could be you light up multiple corridors at the same time. But for some of the large corridors, it could be specific corridor based. So I guess it's about lighting up each corridor in the most efficient and effective manner. It may not be just country by country, but it will be in a phased manner.
Okay. So there's a lot that you have to do in 2022, Ms. Rai. It's always a pleasure talking to you. Wishing you and everyone at the NPCI a very happy new year. And of course, we look forward to more interviews.
Thank you very much.